it's Brian O'Shaughnessy from Public Mobile.
How are you doing today, Brian?
Doing very well, thank you.
Good. You are pretty busy, I understand.
Yeah, my apologies for being so constrained today, but I've got vendors lined up all day, so
Well, that's a good.
all coming in giving me their presentation.
That's a good position to have because I think it's really needed.
Yeah.
So I guess the basic understanding that I'd like to get out of this interview is just really congratulate you for coming into the Canadian mobile space and really give a greater understanding to our readers about how public mobile will be beneficial to them. Because I understand that it's just available currently in Ontario and Quebec. That's the licenses that you purchase, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if you can just get a greater understanding to us about what you plan to do and how you can be beneficial to the people within Ontario and Quebec, I guess.
Right, so why don't I just start with the facts that, the license that was bought last summer during the auction was a license that covers from Windsor to Quebec City, and the total territory is about a 19 million population, so it's about two-thirds of Canadians.
Okay.
Live in that zone, which is no surprise to anybody. And our intention is to come in. You probably read all the press and the wording around. We view wireless service as not as a luxury, but as a right.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of how we've been terming it. And we look at the fact that if you look at the market today, 38% of Canadians do not have access to cellular phones. And that number is a good distance behind the rest of the world. And we honestly believe one of the main reasons for that is that the cost of service in Canada is higher than other places around the world.
Definitely.
So we're looking at this as being our opportunity to come in and not be the high-end bells and whistles company that develops a new feature every day for some small percentage of the population, but having a fair price service that basically allows people to do what they need to do, to talk and text,
okay,
and use the phone, whether it be for coordinating their personal lives, getting hold of someone because they have something they want to tell them instantly, or just sharing ideas. So it's basically, and you've seen the tagline, no doubt, everybody talk, and it's really about that everyone should have the right to talk. Everyone should have the right to make a call if they have to because they've got an important announcement or they just want to talk to somebody. So our focus very clearly is to go and build a network that basically allows for those services that people can talk and text. You know what? We're not going to have iPhones. If you want that, go to the other guys. They'll be more than happy to have that. But most people don't want that. There is a proportion of the population that do. But if we can just allow everyone to get a phone in their hands so they can communicate as required, that's great.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I did read over the press release, and also I've been following this for a little while, is your technology, the G-band. So what's different about that compared to any sort of technology that's currently out there, and how come you opted for that versus in buying other spectrum licenses?
Yeah, and it's, the first question of what's different, and the answer is not much. It is a bit unique, and that is why we got a good deal. I'll explain that. But in terms of what it is, if you look at the PCS band that carriers have been using in North America or in Canada since 1995, so all the existing companies are using it. They're basically divided into blocks from A to F, and there was always a G block, which was the next piece up, that just happens to never have been provided before, never given to anybody.
Okay.
So it's literally part of the PCS band. It's right next to it. It's the next 5 megahertz or 10 megahertz of spectrum. And what happened is when the government had the auction last summer, the main chunk of frequencies they were issuing were the AWS, which is a totally different frequency band. Still no big deal. Frequencies are frequencies, quite frankly. And as long as people order equipment, others make equipment to go with it. But they auctioned off the last of the PCS bands, the G band, and the G block at the same time. Most people looked at it and said, well, gee, no one has that yet, so therefore let's just ignore it. We'll go after the AWS frequencies. The people in our company who were participating in the auction and looking at it were very smart and looked around and saw, there's some other people around the world, like Sprint PCS in the U.S., who have this spectrum already, so why don't we look buying this stuff. And so what basically happens, as you can imagine in an auction, when you have one party very interested and no one else interested, the price is a lot lower.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So our other new entrant competitors in Canada pay between $250 and $450 million to get a license.
Right.
We paid 52.
Yep. So your range of profit will be greater.
Well, and if you're sitting here in the business that we're trying to get into and say that you want to be the low-cost provider, spending an extra $200 to $400 million on your spectrum isn't a great way of starting that step.
Yep.
You know, before you've got one piece of equipment in the ground,
Yep.
you've spent an extra $200 million. That's a lot of money that I can use in much better ways than just buying spectrum.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the technology, what sort of handsets do you plan on bringing to us Canadians?
Yeah, so a variety of handsets, but let's just take a step back, because then the question becomes, some of these guys were saying, and the reason they didn't participate is because, well, you won't be able to buy equipment. Well, we found out very quickly, and that all the base stations that the companies make, and base stations being the big, heavy equipment that goes at every tower location around the city to collect all the cell phone calls, all the base stations in CDMA already supported G-band, so that was a no-brainer, was dead easy.
Oh, great.
And we just had to get some people interested in making handsets. And back to what I said before, if you come and ask people and offer enough quantities and tell them what you want, they'll make it. And we found out very quickly, and right now I'm going through an RFQ process where we've got 5 or 6 companies bidding on our business.
That's great.
So I'm not worried about it. The handsets that will the other thing, last point, then I'll talk more about the handsets. So last week? Yeah, I think it was last week. Seems so long ago now. We actually took a Nortel base station working in the G-band and installed it in downtown Toronto, our first cell site, if you will. And then we took a handset that was made by a Chinese company called ZTE, letter Z, letter T, and letter E. And they made the changes to make it work. And we thought, let's just show everyone that it really works, that this isn't some voodoo rocket science. It was really very simple. They changed some of the firmware in the phone. They changed one filter in the duplexer, and it worked. So it took them less than 2 weeks to do the entire development.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I wouldn't call it development, the entire modification. So it was relatively simple. It was literally 2 weeks from the day I asked them. They showed back up in Toronto and said, "Here, is this what you want?" And it was working. So
that's amazing. So you're actually showing the people who originally said that it couldn't be done that it can be done at a cost-effective price too.
Well, exactly. We're not expecting to pay any more for these handsets than people are paying for any other CDMA handset around the world.
That's fantastic.
And so then you get into your question a moment ago was, what kind of phones are we going to have? And we'll have a variety of phones from, the beautifully named good, better, best category.
Yeah.
But, get a basic phone to more interesting phones. But the fundamental piece here is they will be cost-effective value devices. That they're not going to be ugly clunkers. We'll make sure they're interesting, stylish devices. We'll make sure they have all the basic talk and text capabilities that everyone comes to expect. And, a variety of styles and colors and whatnot, just to meet people's needs. But the mantra has to be, as with getting inexpensive spectrum, we have to make sure that whatever phones we produce, that they're cost effective, that we don't go add a bunch of capabilities that no one wants that adds significant cost to structure.
And from what I read, it's about $40 a month. That's estimated your target?
Yeah, our specific plan that we're looking at now, and these are all just early day discussions, but it's only over $40 a month for unlimited talk, unlimited text.
It's great.
And we offer the service. There's no contract, no credit check, and no surprises is how we like to put it. That you pay $40, you use it as much as you want for the month, and at the end of the month, if you still like the service, you pay another $40, you use it the next month.
Well, it'll be honestly really interesting to see what happens over the next, several months, because you're planning on launching on Q3. Like, your competitors will probably then be, obviously, Koodo, Fido, Solo, and then Global Live too. So it'll be really interesting to see the sort of competition that's going to be stirred up. So
Absolutely. And, it's going to be interesting as well, because one of the things we're doing that's different than everyone else is we have the lower cost up front. We've kept it simple, so we're not adding a lot of ancillary additional costs. What I love is I've been in this business since 1985 when I first helped launch Bell Cellular, and I love the fact that I'm now able to take a step back and say, you know what, there's all this new stuff out there that I can take advantage of, and I have no legacy. And I can create an all-IP network. I can take advantage of the latest encoding techniques.
Yep.
I can do a whole bunch of things that allow me to produce a cost structure that the other guys can't, because they have an embedded base of capabilities. And everyone else now is in the rush to go to the high-end devices, high-end capabilities, high, super-fast data services. That's not where we're going. So it'll be interesting to see how the others react. But the reality is we know that our costs are below theirs, so we should be able to offer a better price than anybody else.
Well, there's certainly a place for everyone to make a footmark. So, and I also like your branding. The name is simple. The site and everything looks really easy to use. So it's really congruent with the message that you're putting out there.
Well, exactly, and we're going to continue to keep things simple and focus on just producing a service that people want at a fair cost.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate your time, and we'll keep on following you and keep on writing stories about Public Mobile. So, other than that, I thank you for everything.